Hello, my name is Patty Irwin. I'm the Urban Forestry Coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Commission. Today I'm going to be talking with you about how to select and maintain trees in your yard. Some of you probably know trees provide a lot of benefits to our watersheds, and we want to make sure that we can receive all those benefits and more in maintaining your trees. So, which comes first, the sod or the tree? Well, we definitely want to plan for our trees before we start digging holes. You've probably heard the saying to plant a $10 tree in a $100 hole. Well, this makes perfect sense because we want to make sure that our trees are going to grow and that we get the most that we can from them in our watershed. So before we select our tree, we want to consider the site. We want to determine how much room we're going to need for the root system. You want to look at your sidewalks, your driveways, your foundations. You definitely want to look overhead for lines. And if there are overhead lines, then you want to make sure you're not going to plant a tree that will grow over 20 feet in height. You want to look at the soils on your site because different trees have different needs. Then, if you're looking to shade your home, you'll want to look at those sites on the east and west side of your house for placement of your tree. Or perhaps you're wanting to block the north winds in the wintertime, then you'd be looking at an evergreen. Make sure there are no underground utilities nearby. Most people don't realize it, but most of the tree's roots are in the top 18 inches of the soil. Roots can extend 2 to 3 times beyond the canopy as the tree grows, and the feeder roots are located in the top 2 to 4 inches of the soil. Trees obviously need space above and below ground. Redbuds are a good tree to select if you have a small planting space and you have overhead lines. Water-soaked soils and compacted soils have similar challenges as there is very little airspace in the soil. Next, we want to determine the purpose of the tree. How do you want to use the tree? Is it to shade your home, or perhaps it's to screen? If you want color from your tree or a winter interest in your landscape, you'll need to select a tree that will provide these as well. Trees can be used to reduce noise and wind, and especially to control erosion, which is very important in your watershed. Attracting wildlife may be desirable, and trees can help do this as well. Trees save homeowners money. You can save up to 30% in your annual air conditioning costs by placing a tree strategically. And you can see how this pecan tree is shading 3 homes in this neighborhood. Also, trees can help in the winter if they're located on the north side of your home. A tulip tree is a great tree to provide for shade in your home, and it does grow fairly fast. A bonus of the tulip tree is that it has a beautiful flower in the spring. The pawpaw is a great understory tree if you already have larger trees in your yard. It is great for wildlife as the fruit is very desirable and can be eaten by humans, and the pawpaw also has a unique little red flower as well. The black cherry will attract over 30 different bird species, so if bird watching is something you desire, then you can plant black cherry. Most people wouldn't think of a black locust for the yard, but it has a very beautiful fragrant flower, and it often gets mistaken with the honey locust, which has all the thorns. The black locust does at times have a few thorns, but it is a great tree as the wood is very hard and the canopy is not so large. The shortleaf pine is our state tree. If you're looking for a tree to provide interest year-round, it is evergreen and can provide that for you. The shagbark hickory is another native that has a very interesting bark. It looks like it is peeling off, and as you can see, the canopy is quite small. So if you're wanting to shade your home and you don't have much room for the canopy, hickory might be your selection. If you're looking for winter interest, we have several trees that have beautiful bark in the wintertime. The sycamore, the lacebark elm, and the river birch all provide very interesting bark. For fall color, Blackgum is a great choice. It has a beautiful red color in the fall. So now we're looking at species selection. We need to look at the hardiness zone to make sure that the tree will grow where we want it to. Does it require full sun or shade? Does it prefer moist soils or dry soils? Is it tolerant of pollution? Can it withstand winds and storms? And how will it handle the heat from buildings? In Arkansas, we have a large selection of trees. We have over 200 species of native trees. As you can see from the hardiness zone map, we are in the 6B and 7A designation. Here is a good example of how a tree will grow differently in different settings. This is the American holly, and you can see how out in full sun the tree is larger and fuller, whereas in the shade it has the more pyramidal shape. Bradford Pear. Even though Bradford Pear is a very beautiful tree in the fall and has a nice flower in the spring, it is a very weak-wooded tree, and because of the attachment of the limbs, it will eventually start breaking apart. So you might want to consider looking at a different flowering tree for your site. The flowering dogwood. The flowering dogwood is a favorite of everyone, and it does grow well in Arkansas soils. But it does require moist soils for the roots, but it doesn't like to have very wet soils, so you have to be very careful. Also, it likes to have some shade in the afternoon. We also want to consider the growth characteristics of the tree. We want to consider the size of the tree at maturity, and as you can see here, someone thought that a Bradford pear and a pine tree would be nice trees for their front yard, and now you don't even know where the front door is. You want to think about the branching habit of your trees. Do the branches grow up like the red maple on the right, or will they be growing down like the pin oak on the left? You want to think about the leaf or fruit litter that can be a problem. If you like sweet gums but you don't like the gumballs on your yard, you might consider the Rotunda loba, which is a fruitless variety. You can go to our website to learn about various trees, fruit, bark, flowers, and there you will be able to select the tree of your choice. Now we're going to purchase and plant the tree. You want to examine the tree at the nursery and make sure that you have a good straight leader. You want to make sure that the branches are evenly distributed, that there's no damage on the bark. Look for insects and disease, and a good trunk taper, which is where the root system starts. And if you can, check the roots to make sure that they are there. When planting the tree, we want to try to make a planting hole that is 3 to 5 times as wide as the root ball. But we also want to make sure that the root ball is approximately an inch higher than the existing soil. We want to remove competing vegetation, and you want to make sure that the soil around the hole is loose and will allow the roots to grow out into it. There are various tree maintenance activities that we can use to ensure that our trees stay healthy. We want to consider the site, the time of year, the age and species of the tree, and how much is the maintenance going to cost. Some of the maintenance that we may want to use with our tree is mulching, watering, pruning, fertilizing, and of course tree protection. We want to be sure that we keep lawnmowers and weed eaters away from the trees. Once a tree is damaged, that spot is always there, and it's now open for insects and disease. So we want to make sure that we protect the trunk of the tree. Tree guards are one way that we can do this. They allow air to still move through and keep the trunk dry, but it will also prevent weed eaters and lawnmowers from bumping up against the tree. Mulching is the best way to help keep grass and weeds away from the trunk of the tree. You want to be sure that you do proper mulching. The mulch should not be like a volcano and go up the trunk of the tree. You want the mulch to be approximately 2 to 3 inches deep, and you want to make sure that it doesn't touch the trunk of the tree. Research has found that mice, often in the wintertime, will live in the mulch and chew on the tree. Also, adventitious roots will grow off of the trunk if the mulch keeps the trunk too moist. Fertilization is normally not needed if the right tree is planted in the right place. This in turn will help reduce the potential for contamination of our lakes. The best way to fertilize your trees is to mulch the leaves in the fall with your lawnmower. This puts nutrients back into the soil and improves the soil texture. Proper pruning is very important for your trees. As you can see from this diagram, a properly pruned tree has very well-spaced branching and allows the air to move through the branches. We all experienced the ice storm. If we've had minimum damage from our tree, then we can easily prune the tree and bring it back to a healthy condition. We want to use lateral pruning. And as you can see, you really don't notice where the pruning occurred. This is what you want when you have your tree pruned. How do we prune larger branches? We do what is called a three-way cut. First, you want to make sure that you get the weight off of the branch. You can see where A is underneath the branch, and this will allow for the branch to break off there instead of at the trunk. We want to make the final cut at the branch collar. Various trees have various branch collars. This is what happens when you do not take the weight off of the tree. You can rip the trunk and the site will never seal over. We also want to prune our trees for strength. When our trees are smaller and we have what's called codominant stems, you want to make sure that you take off one of these branches. You can see how on this older tree, the tree is starting to split. The wood is competing for the site, and the bark will eventually push the branches apart. After we make our cut, this is what we want our tree to look like. We want the wood to start covering over the cut. Whatever you do, do not top your trees. These trees will never be a healthy tree again. What happens at a cut when you top a tree is you get suckering, and all of these branches are competing for that space. Along with that, the bad cut will start to decay, and the decay will start to work its way back into all of these branches. So you will have created a more hazardous condition. Tree protection is a must. We want to be sure that when we do any kind of construction around our trees that we protect the root system. Irrigation is one of the worst ways that we can cut all the tree roots. Also, if we're wanting to fill in around a tree, you never want to put more than 2 to 3 inches of additional topsoil over the root system. If you're wanting to put a patio over your roots, you want to make sure that you use materials that will continue to allow for air and water movement. If you're wanting to build something in your yard and you're going to have to drive over the roots, use wood chips to alleviate the compaction of heavy equipment, and once the project is done, remove the wood chips. If you are having to put new utilities in your yard, you want to avoid the roots. Try to stay at least outside of the tree canopy. Better yet, if you have a very special tree in your yard, have the utility company tunnel underneath the roots. If you just go 2 feet below the roots, you're going to miss almost all of them. Trees are resilient with proper care and protection. So, to review our management strategies for a healthy forest, plant the right tree in the right place, Schedule tree maintenance activities year-round. Prune for the tree's health. And be sure to protect your tree roots from construction. Thank you for your interest in learning more about how to manage trees in your yard. The Arkansas Forestry Commission has a lot of resources available to you. Please go to our website to learn more about how to manage your trees. And you can also learn who your county forester is, and they can come and give you more advice at your home.